Hello everybody, welcome to our unit on functions. As you'll hear in class, assuming that you're watching this video after we did the first lesson of the week live, when we talk about functions in programming, there are two different styles. There are the user-defined, which are the ones we're going to make, and we'll get to that eventually. If you remember last year in Visual Basic, the subs, that was short for subroutine. That's a function. And in Python, if you remember the DEF, define a function, it's the same thing. C++, there are functions. We're going to be making user-defined functions. That's not what this video is. This video is talking specifically about some of the built-in math functions in C++. And I'm not going to cover all of them. I just want to cover the most important. So, if you take notice to my screen here, I have a new project. I don't have any extra includes of any nature yet. And so let me just start going through a few. Some of the ones that are the most common would be the square roots. So if I do something like, what is the Sqrt, hence square root, notice it pops up. It recognizes it. The way you interpret this is you send in a double, in the parentheses, you send it in a double, and then it's going to return a double. It's going to give you a double as an answer. So you send in a decimal, gives you a decimal. Remembering that integers are also doubles. 4 is really 4.0. So if I do, well, what's the square root of 12, let's say. There we go. Let's run that. I'm not going to run it for every single one of these, but there's a square root of 12, 3 point something or other. Some of the other common ones. Absolute value. Cout ABS of -7, let's say. Poof. So that'll give you +7. Very exciting. What about powers or exponents? We've kind of been dancing around this all year. There's no times like there was in Python. There's no up caret, the thing above the 6, like there is in some of the other languages like Visual Basic. So what's the power command in C++? It is cout pow. And if you notice a little pop-up here, I don't know how well it's coming through in the video, but it's expecting you to type in $x$y, which those are kind of like placeholders. So it's 2 doubles in the parentheses separated by a comma. And then it'll give you a double as an answer. So the way this works is you have the base, comma, the exponent. So let's say you want to do something very simple like 2 to the 3rd power. 2, comma 3 is going to give you 2 raised to the 3rd power, which of course will equal 8. Pretty simple. That works, just so you know, for fractional exponents, rational exponents. So if I do something like 16 to the 0.5, 0.5 is a half, so 16 to the 1/2 power, it's a square root of 16. It also works for negative powers. If I do what is 7 raised to the -1st power, that will give me 7 to the -1st, which is 1/7. So if I try this out, there are some of the answers. And of course, let's compare and contrast here. So there's the square root of 12, 3.4611, absolute value 7, 2 to the 3rd is 8, 16 to 1/2 is the square root of 16, it's 4, and then 1/7 is 142.857. So the pow command is very versatile in what it can do with everything it can do from math class. The sine, cosine, and tangent. I know all of you are at various levels of math at this point. Just so you know, the input is in radians. If you don't know what that is yet, it's because you're not in trig or pre-calc. You haven't done it yet. You will someday. For those of you that are in those classes, just to kind of throw something out, if I do something like, what is the cosine of, and then let's say I do 0, of course on the unit circle, 0 degrees, 0 radians, cosine is the x-coordinate, so that should give you, when I run it, should mean 1. Again, if you don't know why that is, then you're not in pre-calc or trig yet. Or you just didn't pay attention. So you should pay attention. What else? Well, there's also the ceiling and the floor. The ceiling command, if I do something like, what's the ceiling of 4.4? What's the ceiling of 4.9? Both of those are going to go up to 5 because the ceiling command always goes up to the next integer above. So hence ceiling, it's going up. So even if you have something that does not round, it's not like 4.4 goes down, it always goes up. And then vice versa, the floor will always go down to the next integer below. And picture a number line. It's when I say above and below, if you picture a number line, it's like the numbers that are on the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So anything between 1 and 2 is going to go up to 2. Negatives, it's going to be anything between -2 and -1 would go up to -1 because the number line, you're not going down to -1, you go up to it. Floor, if I have a floor of 4.4, that's going to give me 4. But if I have, what's the floor of 4.9, that's also going to give me 4. It'll always go to the next integer to the left of, or if you want to think of it that way, below that value. One more. Again, I don't know the level of math that each of you is in, so if you haven't heard of logarithms, you will someday. The logarithm is a little bit different than you would expect, for those of you that know what you're doing. If you have, what's the log of 10? Now let's do 100. And there's also log 10 100s. So for those of you that know what you're doing with logarithms, logarithms is basically what's the base, and then you raise it to a power to get to that number. So like 2 to the what is 8, and you'd say 3. So the log base 2 of 8 is 3, because 3 is like the missing number. You have 2, you have 8, you need the 3. Now on your calculator, there is a log, and there is a ln, the natural log. On a computer, it's not the same, at least in C++. When you say log by itself in your calculator, it would be typically what we call the common log, the log base 10. That is not the case. It is actually the natural log in C++. So that's the ln button. Whereas the log 10, that would be the common log. In other words, a base 10 in C++. So on your calculator, they're sort of reversed. The common log is base 10. The natural log is base e, which, speaking of e, when you want to do e to a power, you can also do exp of something. So like, what's the exp of 2? And that will give you e raised to the second power. Once again, if you haven't heard of logarithms, if you haven't heard of e, you will someday soon. All right. I believe I said one more previously. This is one more. There's a final pair of functions that I found very helpful over the years. Min and max. If you give them two numbers, it'll tell you which is the minimum or the maximum, whichever you use. So if I say something like what's the max of 5 and 2? Well, what's the bigger of those two numbers? It is clearly 5. If I say, what is the min of 5 and 2? It is pretty clearly 2. It's the pair of numbers, it's which one is the higher or lower. It's sort of like a shortcut if-else. Instead of saying, like, if, this one or this one, you can just say it in a quick little command. The limitation is you can only use 2 numbers at a time. Like, you can't list, 5 numbers and it'll find the smallest one of those. For that, you would need some kind of array and sorting them, or a program, an algorithm to go through and find the biggest or smallest, but I think you get the gist. So that was a quick little run through of the built-in math library functions. There are other ones. In case you're curious, you're welcome to Google the results. And keep these in mind for the programs you're going to be doing. The segue from this file is all about the built-in, and now what we'll do coming up will be the more important, which is the user-defined, the ones you're going to make. Take care for now.